Hola clase! Today we're going to talk about stem changing verbs. Remember, our stem changers change E to IE, O to UE, and U to UE. So when we're talking about stem changing verbs, first we have to understand what a stem is. The stem of a verb is the part that comes before the AR, ER, or IR ending. So here, if you look at the examples, empezar, the EMPEZ, the part that's underlined is the stem. The same thing with volver and dormir. So it's that part that comes before the ending. Our changes are going to occur in that part of the verb. So here are some examples of some verbs that change E to IE. We have querer, which means to want, pensar, which means to think, empezar, which means to begin, comenzar, which also means to begin, and perder, which means to lose. So how do these verbs work? Stem-changing verbs give their stems the boot. What does that mean? Well, that means that the stem-changing verbs are going to change their stems in the shape of a boot. That sounds kind of weird, so let's look here. So in these forms, it will stem change. So querer will change in the yo form, which is our first box. It'll change in the tu form. It'll change in the el, ella, and usted form. It's not going to stem change in the nosotros form, or if we were using it, the vosotros form, but it will also stem change in the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. So first let's change the stem. Remember, with querer, only the E in the stem can change. Okay, so you can see there it's red with querer. That is the E that's going to change. If you were doing perder, it would be that first E right there. Now, sometimes you'll have two E's in the stem, and if that's the case, you're going to change the second one. So for preferir or empezar, it's going to be the second E, not the first one. So remember, the E changes to IE within the boot. This means nosotros form never changes. You can remember this as we never change. Alright, so here are what the stem changes look like. You change the E to IE in all of the forms except the nosotros form. Okay, then we're going to add the endings. So that's just like we would do with any other verb. So if a verb ended in AR, you would use those endings, the o, as, a, amos, an. Okay, but for ER endings, you would have o, es, e, emos, en, and remember IR verbs are o, es, e, imos, en. So pretty much the same except for nosotros. Okay, so let's add those endings. With querer ending in ER, we would use, of course, the ER ending. So o, es, e, emos, en. So then that will give us quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, and quieren. Okay, so quiero would mean I want, quieres would mean you want, quiere would mean he, she, or you formal want, queremos would be we want, and quieren would be they want. Okay, so our O to UE and U to UE stem changers are going to work the same way. Poder, which means to be able to or can, jugar, to play, that's going to be our U to UE, dormir, which means to sleep, soñar, which means to dream, volver, which means to return to a place, so like you go back somewhere, and devolver, which means to return a thing, like you return your library books. Okay, so we're going to find the O or the U in the stem that's going to change. Okay, and you can see those right there, they're underlined. Then you have to decide which endings you're going to use. So if you're stem changing, jugar, then you're going to use the AR endings, o, as, a, amos, an, but for poder, you would use o, es, e, emos, en. Okay, so when you stem change it in the boot, you have juego, juegas, juega, jugamos, as you'll notice does not stem change, and then juegan. And for poder, you would have puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, and pueden. And again, stem changes only occur in the boot. Gracias y adiós.